All right, is everyone okay with starting a few minutes earlier?
Let's roll.
Sure.
Roll for it.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first ever Zoom debate for Congressional Seat 19. I'm excited to host this informative debate. I'm just going to go over the rules with everyone one more time. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, 1 minute to answer questions, 30 seconds to respond if you are directly called out after you've already spoken, and 20 seconds for closing statements. Again, I will remind everyone not to talk over another person. It's very difficult to make out what anyone is saying if you're talking over someone. If need be, I can mute you if you go over your time and if it's not your time to speak. And we will go ahead and start with opening statements. Byron Donalds, representative, you were the first one to accept the invitation, so we'll start with you.
Thanks for having me. My name is Byron Donalds, and I'm running for Congress because Southwest Florida needs a proven conservative that you can trust representing us in Washington. I came into politics more than 10 years ago. And during that time, I've started the Tea Party movement. I actually have a proven conservative record in the Florida legislature. And I'm the only person in this race that actually really can grow our Republican Party that can help retake the House and it can actually help re-elect President Trump to the presidency. The choices here are clear. Everybody in this race is going to try to say that they're the most conservative candidate in this race. But it's without question that I am the most conservative. So my name is Byron Donalds. I am the conservative you can trust to represent you in Washington, and I'm asking for your vote.
That was wonderful. Representative Dane Eagle.
Thank you, Margaret, for having all of us, and thank you all for being here. My name is Dane Eagle. I'm the Republican Majority Leader in the Florida House, born and raised right here in Southwest Florida. I'm running for Congress to protect and defend our Constitution, our country, and our president, who is under attack more so than ever today. We're dealing with unprecedented crisis right now with COVID-19, and that has turned into an economic crisis. It is without question that we need someone with a proven, consistent, conservative track record, and not someone who's untried and untested. We need to look to somebody who has a record, and I have the most proven record in the legislature to be able to take to Congress. In my past 8 years, I have fought to cut taxes by over $10 billion, to protect our waterways, to protect our unborn, to protect our Constitution, including the Second Amendment. And I've fought to protect and defend our immigration process by making sure illegal immigration has no place in the state of Florida, by banning sanctuary cities and passing E-Verify. It's time to elect someone who can take CD19 to the next level. I'm the candidate who can do it. Dane Eagle for Congress, DaneEagle.com. Thank you.
Mayor Randy Henderson.
Hello, everybody. I'm Randy Henderson. I'm a husband, a father, a businessman, and of course, I'm the mayor of Fort Myers. I'll just share with you quickly that my time as mayor, I have relied on timeless conservative principles to oversee our city, and it has worked. We've helped create jobs, for example. We've kept taxes low, and we have managed our budget. We've helped create jobs, which is something that's been very important over my 20 years in public service. We've seen our city grow in unprecedented ways. We've rebuilt the city of Fort Myers as a team, and it has worked. Now America more than ever needs a conservative to go help President Trump during this time of COVID-19 crisis. I'm running for Congress, everyone, because I am a proven successful conservative mayor here in Fort Myers, Florida, and there's no guesswork in the progress that we have known in my 20 years as mayor.
Dan Severson.
I'm Dan Severson, and I Navy Top Gun fighter pilot, veteran legislator, and Christ-centered family. I served the state of Florida and my country for 22 years as a naval officer from the Indian Ocean to Washington, D.C. As a fighter pilot, I flew both day and night in all kinds of weather, calm seas off of the coast of Australia to the edge of a typhoon off the Philippines, protecting you and the constitutional liberties I swore to uphold. After retiring at the rank of commander, I worked in a high-tech startup business and then was recruited to run for the legislature. I served 4 years in the majority and 4 in the minority, 2 of those as minority whip, where I held back $3.2 billion in tax increases. As a Floridian of 27 years now, I am ready to serve you again. I'm the only tested and proven leader in military, business, legislative, and divided government sectors. I'm the only one with the experience to hit the ground running and be your representative, the wingman President Trump needs in this new Congress. Thanks.
Christy Mclaughlin.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm Christy Mclaughlin, a proud Republican, pro-Trump, pro-life, pro-Constitution. I've been volunteering and participating for the Republican Party for the past 7 years. I've never seen many of these candidates participating or volunteering. At 24 years old, I'm a Florida certified teacher and I'm a lawyer. My charity work has raised $125,000 to local homeless shelters. I've worked on Capitol Hill. I have attended House committee meetings. I even briefed the congressman on the Mueller report. I'm ready to represent you in Congress on the first day. This race is about character and intent. Many candidates are trying to buy this race. This congressional seat is an opportunity to enrich them further. I'm uncorrupted. I'm unbought. I was born in Southwest Florida. I was raised in Southwest Florida. My only intent is to represent the interests of Southwest Florida. I want to be your voice. I'm here to serve you. And please check out my website, christyforcongress.com.
Darren Aquino.
Hi, I'm Darren Aquino. Everybody knows that I'm the National Chief Advocate for Disabled, police, firemen, and veterans. I'm a 9/11 survivor. I have been fighting constitutional rights for the vulnerable families, the families that were attacked by this virus. I am the successful, most staunch Republican out of New York City who made this my home. A lot of the Floridians here have been neglected, the vulnerable. You broadcasted it on Wink, and it covered the families that I've been helping now that they've made reports on as a citizen. America needs a new candidate in Congress that thinks of the American working family. We don't have that. And Dan, thank you for your service. Thank you for that. I come from a military law enforcement family, dedicated men and women. My family is dedicated to this country and the growth of America. Donald Trump is a friend to this family. Donald needs a man that will fight these other New York criminals like me. And I will do that because I've been doing that for 35 years, changing the laws for disabled Americans, our veterans.
Thank you. Dr. William Figelstaller.
Thank you, Morgan, and thank you, Wink News, for hosting this debate. My name is Dr. William Figelstaller. I first came to Southwest Florida 25 years ago as a single father of 3 children. I was crippled with debt after working my way through medical school and residency. I took out a small loan and opened a tiny practice in Naples. Over the next 25 years, through hard work and dedication, I built that fledgling practice into one of the largest privately owned healthcare conglomerates in the state of Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the American dream. It's the exact dream that is under attack by a radicalized Democratic Party, hell-bent on driving us into socialism. We cannot afford to send a weak leader to Washington. We must send a conservative freedom fighter who will back President Trump and not just vote for, but champion real conservative initiatives. I'm Dr. William Figelstaller, and I look forward to today's debate. Thank you.
Representative Heather Fitzenhagen.
Thank you. My name is Heather Fitzenhagen, and to open, I would just like to say thank you to all the first responders and the people that are working on the front lines that every day are putting their lives on the line as we battle this COVID-19 pandemic. It's a trying time, and I'm sure I speak for everyone that we are praying for you and that we will get through this. As far as my service and my desire to run for Congress, the love of my community brought me to public service over 9 years ago. And through that time in the Florida legislature, we have done a lot of really good things. We need to take some of the wins that we have had in Florida to Washington. We need to work on balancing our budget. We need to work on blocking anyone that is not here with permission from crossing our borders. I'm going to stand up for what I believe is right and fight for Florida's community every single day if you send me to Washington. Thank you.
Moving on to the first question. Southwest Florida is hurting financially right now because of COVID-19. If elected, how would you help restore our local economy? We're going to start with Dr. William Figelstaller.
Well, first of all, I think that constituent services has been underrepresented with the elected officials that we currently have in place. I know that from our point of view, my campaign shut down all fundraising and on-the-ground campaigning activities and opened a COVID-19 resource center immediately. Over the last 6 weeks, we've made over 100,000 calls to at-risk individuals in the district. We've received over 1,000 calls from people in need and helped people with issues related to healthcare needs, groceries, and even navigating through the government websites to try to get money and unemployment. That's the type of leadership we need, and that's the type of leadership that you'll get from me as your congressman. There's no question that we need to support small businesses, and we need to get America back to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Severson?
Yeah, thank you. You know, this has been an event that has refocused America on where our priorities are. And when we take a look at what China has been doing and what they have done in the past, I think it brings into focus the things that we need to address to keep our national security here solid. And so part of that process, I think, in getting people back to work in Central and Southwest Florida is job opportunities. And so when we begin to look at China and what they have done to our economy and all of the things that have left this nation and gone over there, we need to recapture those, bring those back. And we have opportunity zones near us, just to the west side of Lake Okeechobee, through Lee and Henry and Charlotte County, that we need to be capitalizing and developing now, because we can take those industries that are coming back over from China and begin to initiate those into our local economy that creates jobs for our people that are good jobs with a future, not just blue-collar jobs, which are important, but those that will give us a long-term economic growth policy. And that will be my job in Washington, D.C., being your representative.
All right, Christy Mclaughlin?
Hi, thank you. We need to open now. It is time. The purpose of quarantine and the purpose of the social distancing was to ensure that we didn't overflow hospitals, that we didn't overcome our ability to tackle this virus and maintain the health of our citizens, and also to slow the spread rate. But now that we have seen the exponential growth of this virus, we know that it's not nearly as large as what was initially expected. We have a very small death rate, particularly in Florida. And what we need to do is open up now. We need to allow small businesses to get back to work. We need to allow our citizens to start working and get reemployed. There's so many people who are furloughed, so many people who have lost their job through this, and they live off of their next paycheck. And we have removed that ability. Small businesses can figure it out, and they are self-sustaining. We need to remove government intervention from their ability to get back on the right track, open back up our economy.
Thank you so much. Darren Aquino?
Well, first of all, this pandemic attacked the vulnerable. They had a bad approach on handling it from New York and around the country. The vulnerable were the ones they were supposed to protect. From 9/11, we should have been ready from this type of attack and had our stockpile ready to cover the folks that were suffering, because that's what made the problem expand out and go crazy because of the homelessness. They were affected, but we have to stimulate the mom and pop business that was affected from it, because the mom and pop business is what made this country great. Not the big, but not the McDonald's, not the Burger King, but the small business. We have to get back, but this virus, I'm just getting over it, and I still have the effects. We still have to watch it because people are having intestinal issues. There are more issues to this. We have to open up, yes, but we have to also strengthen the constitutional rights that were violated around the states. We have to keep the freedom going, rejuvenate the business, and keep a close eye on the effects that it's going to continue to have. We're expecting another wave of this.
Thank you so much. This next question is directed at those already in elected office. Governor Ron DeSantis put his Safer at Home order in place on April 1st. Mayor Randy Henderson, as mayor, you were in the position to shut the city down earlier. Do you stand by your decision not to?
Well, I can share that our country needed to respond very quickly to the economic toll taken by the lockdown. However, I would hasten to say that this had to be done in a very measured way, and our region worked together to do that with other elected officials, meeting daily on a phone call at 11:30 to make sure that we were coordinated in that effort, and that we were measured in that effort, and that we could shut down the economy in an effective way. And I think that we have seen ourselves, if you look back, that the measures that we took as a group, as an area coordinating things, will prove to be the right thing. I know a lot of small businesses in Fort Myers have been harmed financially by the shutdown. We will bounce back from that. And I am certain that the measures that we have taken will prove to be those that were prudent. They kept our citizens safe, and they were very measured.
Thank you so much. Representative Byron Donalds, do you stand by the governor's decisions?
I do stand by the governor's decision to issue the stay-at-home orders, but I think one of the things that's important for everybody to remember is those orders were issued simply because we didn't want to have our hospital systems overwhelmed. Now we know that they're not. So now the time has come for us to really reopen our economy. I think the other key thing about those orders is that they came at the appropriate time, not too early, because we were still trying to get our hands on what the actual data was. And the data during this entire crisis has been all over the place. What we've seen is that the death rate is not nearly as high. What we've seen is that the people getting infected, that rate of infection is not nearly as high. And so what we have to do right now is make sure that in Washington, when it comes to whatever the next relief bill is going to be, that stuff like money for the National Endowments of the Arts and for the Kennedy Center doesn't get in there, that there are no rules that stop small businesses from getting access to capital so that they can go back to doing what they do best, and that is make money, employ people, and create the greatest economy man has ever known.
Representative Dane Eagle.
Yes, not only do I support our Governor Ron DeSantis, but I support our President Trump for standing up for the American people. President Trump has put the states first and allowing them to make the right decisions. And Governor DeSantis made the best decision possible by waiting as long as he could to make sure that our economy is still flourishing. And he looked to the counties in that time to make sure they were making the right decisions. And now, as we get ready to open again, he's looking at the counties to see what they're going to do to step forward. And that's the way it should be. When I answer the constituent questions and calls that we're getting right now, it's not mostly about what government can do for them. It's when is government going to get out of the way so that we can get back to work. So as your next congressional representative, I will not be looking to government to see how they can answer the questions. I'll be looking to government to see how it can get out of the way to push forward free market reform, which is what we've done under my tenure as majority leader in the Florida House. We have done more free market reform in the past 2 to 4 years than we have in a decade. It's time to let businesses lead. They know what they're doing. They are strong entrepreneurs in this community that will get our economy back on track if government gets out of the way, and I will be pushing to make sure government is out of their way.
Representative Heather Fitzenhagen.
I believe I was the first elected official to advocate for a quick shelter in place. And I think that was the smart and safe thing to do because we weren't aware of how quickly or how devastating the virus was going to be. We could only look to other countries in Europe and China to make some determinations. So acting quickly, we were able to flatten the curve. I do believe at this time that it is the time is right for us to reopen the economy in a measured way. And I would certainly be deferring again to President Trump and Ron DeSantis that have all of the information at their disposal to time that at the right pace so that we can get Floridians working again.
Thank you so much. On to the next question. In 2018, Southwest Florida was hit hard by a water crisis because of blue-green algae and red tide. How would you ensure we don't have another water crisis of that magnitude? Dr. Fig, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, we're in a lot better place than we were a couple of years ago. Fortunately, Congressman Rooney was able to increase funding from $50 million to $250 million, and we now have the 68 projects up and ready to go to solve this problem. Clean water and natural resources are the backbone of the Southwest Florida economy, no matter what industry that you happen to be in. When I get to Congress, I will continue to increase awareness to our Everglades and our clean water initiatives so that that funding that we got this year will continue for years to come and increase. More importantly, I will not be bought. I am the only outsider in this race. I will not take money from special interests like Representative Donalds and Representative Eagle, who have consistently taken money from special interests like Big Sugar and voted against the initiatives of their constituents.
Thank you so much. Byron Donalds, you were called out, so you can go next.
Listen, thanks so much for the ability to respond. First of all, my record is clear. I've never voted against my constituents on any issue. You can go and check any vote that I've ever taken. I've always stood for my constituents, whether it's their constitutional rights or any other rights. With respect to water, I'm going to continue the work we've already done, which is putting record funding from the state and also working with Washington in the federal legislature to make sure we clean our waters. The doctor's wrong. I wish he got it right, but you know what? That's why we have these debates.
Dan Eagle, you were also called out.
Thank you. Dr. Figg's absolutely right. The water problem is a lot better in recent years, and he has us to thank for it. He has said that Congressman Rooney was able to get some successful funding in Congress, and yes, he was. Under him and President Trump, we finally got some funding in the last 2 years, I think $200 million per year. But what hasn't happened is we haven't seen that money coming up to what's needed. Under my tenure as majority leader, we got over $1.2 billion in funding for Everglades restoration and water quality. You can continue to expect that from me as a born and raised Southwest Floridian. My mother's a boat captain. We depend on Southwest Florida water quality for our livelihood and our economic future.
Yeah. Randy Henderson, we'll move on to you.
Well, just quickly, let me hasten to say that our waters and beaches are precious resources and vitally important to our quality of life. We know that much progress has been made. I would dare say the most in the recent 2 or 3 decades in the earliest times. I can tell you that as mayor that I've worked tirelessly to improve our water conditions. In Fort Myers, we've created multiple filter marshes around our city, including an 1.5 acre filter marsh in downtown Fort Myers, which we've received awards for, that took pressure off the Caloosahatchee River just in our own jurisdiction. These are the types of solutions that we need from the federal government. I've been to Washington many times and worked with our electeds over the last 2 decades to get us in a better place. Investments in infrastructure are necessary, such as the C-43. We're on the right path. This will help blue-green algae. It'll help the red tide. I've been front and center with my elected colleagues here in Fort Myers working on that for several decades. I played a major role working with other elected officials on blue-green algae. We're doing great. We got to stay the course. I know how to do it.
Thank you so much. Representative Heather Fitzenhagen.
Our water quality is the key component to our economy here in Southwest Florida. It drives everything. And I have been an advocate for clean water since I began my career in the legislature. I have worked alongside Captains for Clean Water. I was on the cutting edge trying to promote the EAA reservoir. And I've just been relentless in my pursuit for clean water. And I've been against fracking. It's essential that we continue to fund water measures and to keep pushing forward with ways that we can keep our water clean, keep our economy running, and build a better future for our kids.
Thank you so much. What is the fix for our healthcare system and to keep people from going bankrupt due to medical bills?
Are we going to receive an opportunity to answer as well?
Not everyone is going to have the opportunity to answer every single question, but
Okay.
there are quite a few questions. So you'll start this next one.
All right.
All right, we'll start the clock.
So can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what is the fix for our healthcare system and keeping people from going bankrupt due to medical bills?
All right. So with healthcare, it's a very, very personal circumstance. No individual knows better of the health and well-being of an individual than that person themselves. So we actually need less government interference in healthcare. We also need to have less exorbitant prices, and how we do that is we remove the government intervention for testing and developing drugs. And then also we can establish a free market when it comes to drug purchasing. We should allow individuals to be able to purchase drugs from other countries. That individual has the right to choose for their own healthcare, for their own well-being. And if we have a free market in which that the individual can make a choice for their health and which drugs to purchase, then we're actually taking out the middleman of the government, which actually harms the individual more and more and increases the prices. So people are suffering with the exorbitant prices and the exorbitant amounts of impediments that have been established to receive that health care.
Thank you so much. Darren Aquino?
Well, let me tell you, healthcare is something I've been working on as an advocate for disabled. The healthcare we got in this country because Obama didn't care is not good healthcare. We've allowed other companies to come in and get $800 to $1,000 a month from these PPOs and HMOs. We had the perfect component. Medicare and Medicaid could have been opened up. I wrote this to President Bush. He liked it, and then he decided to make private vouchers. We need to strengthen Medicare and Medicaid and invest those monies in that and then open it to the public at a rate that they can afford through their paycheck. You cannot exhaust your pay on healthcare but you need healthcare because without healthcare, none of your other constitutional rights matter. My mother died from bad healthcare. My father got Parkinson's. We're not working on cures. We're just building on the problem. We will strengthen. When I get to Washington, I will give an idea to the president and it will work and he will listen because they listened to me. 4 presidents listened to me. and I will put a plan with Medicare and Medicaid that will not fail you.
Mayor Randy Henderson.
Well, look, the Democrats' health care policies, namely Obamacare, basically crushed families across this great country and took away our right to choose for ourselves. It's offensive. I support allowing health insurance across state lines, for example. This would require hospitals and others to provide public transparency in pricing. If you've had an operation in recent years, you're floored at the cost when you get that bill in the mail. Both of these solutions, that is a competitive health insurance across state lines, will dramatically increase competition and provide patients with choices. I can say this, more socialized healthcare solutions are not going to help Americans. I want to help our president get back to the basics. This includes replacing Obamacare, protecting those especially with pre-existing conditions, I should say. Thank you.
Dan Severson.
I believe that really in order for us to fix healthcare, we are going to have to open up the market to the private sector, stop the whole government takeover, which Obamacare really did. And part of that starts with transparency, as has been mentioned. Transparency in how each of those institutions actually puts a price tag to the procedures that are out there so that the consumer can see from market share which particular hospital is more economic. Sharing across insurance across state lines is the other huge solution. And health savings accounts is the other part of the, I think the trifecta I would call it, is that in a health care savings account, you have the ability to put tax-free or pre-taxed money into a savings account. Employers actually pump into that as well. So now you can plan out those procedures. If you have transparency, you can plan which is the best place to put your money to get the proper procedure. It also, in that process, gives the performance record of those hospitals to say how successful they have been or how successful they have not been. And I believe that in order for us to really get there, it has to be.
Dr. Fig?
Well, in our country, in the United States, we clearly have the best quality health care of anywhere in the world. People come from all over the world, including world leaders, to our country to get the best health care. The problem that we have is we have a problem with access and affordability. And these are the things that we need to work on. This is an issue that I have championed for a long time. In fact, I have met with the Doctors Caucus in Congress on numerous occasions, who I've been endorsed by each of them, and I will be a leader on this topic when I get to Congress. The plan includes ownership of your health care. It includes wellness rather than illness. It includes some of the things that Dan Severson mentioned, health savings accounts, negotiating over state lines, smaller companies being able to negotiate for insurance products, as well as tort reform and some others. When I get to Washington, I will be a leader on this subject.
That is the time. Representative Byron Donalds.
Listen, we've heard a lot of great ideas on this, and I agree with most of them. I think we do have to have portability across state lines. We do have to make sure that we allow small businesses, especially mom and pop businesses, to be able to pool their employees together to get into larger risk pools to bring down the overall cost. We have to continue the work we've already done in Florida, and that needs to happen across the country. And number one, making sure that Americans have access to cheaper pharmaceutical drugs. And at the same time, we get the middlemen, these PBMs, out of the way so that they don't continue to hike up the cost. But no matter what healthcare plan you want to talk about, the only way you're going to get it accomplished in Washington is you have to have a leader, a champion, if you will, who can actually convey this messaging, not just in the halls of Congress, but to the American people so that they will hear the plan, actually want to take part in that plan, support it, so you can get the political will to get it voted on in Washington and get to the president's desk. I'm the only candidate in this race who has the ability and the skills to get that done. And that's why I need your vote in this campaign.
Thank you. Representative Dane Eagle.
The answer to a healthcare crisis and free market reform, and Congress can look to what we've done in Florida for that answer. Under my tenure as majority leader, we passed telehealth, which is being utilized heavily right now during this crisis. We got rid of the monopolies that the healthcare or the hospitals operate under, and we spearheaded the importation of prescription drugs, which President Trump has teamed up with us here in Florida to make sure that we get that passed. The answer is not in government. Obamacare has disrupted the system, and the expansion of Medicaid, which we in Florida stood up against countless times, would have simply made it worse for those who are on the system. Yes, we need Medicaid for those that are completely needy, but the rest of us, able-bodied citizens, need to be able to find gainful employment and therefore find insurance we can purchase at better access, at lower cost, and higher quality. Free market is where the answer is, not in government.
Representative Heather Fitzenhagen.
I think the problem with healthcare is that we need more competition and we need more transparency in the delivery of healthcare. And I'm very proud of what we've done in the Florida legislature to do just that. We broke down many barriers in terms of bringing competition into the marketplace. And as was mentioned, being able to get our drugs with the leadership of Ron DeSantis from Canada. I think we can continue to expand on that. And competition will drive prices down. Transparency will allow consumers to compare one to the other. I think we need to further investigate PBMs and insurance companies as part of the process of being able to pull back the layers of the onion and provide better, more quality, affordable care for all Floridians.
Thank you so much. The man you want to replace, Francis Rooney, was widely criticized for saying he needed to hear more information before voting on President Trump's impeachment. What is wrong with that, and how do you navigate the partisanship to represent all of Southwest Florida? We'll start with Representative Dane Eagle.
I think that Francis Rooney's done a wonderful job when it comes to our environment and water quality. And even he said that there's no way he would have impeached Donald Trump. The facts were very clear, and it's clear that the Democrats were pushing for a hoax. They were looking for anything they could do to overturn the elections that we, the people, spoke for in 2016. Our president is doing a fantastic job in leading our country and putting people first, people above politics, and yet the Democrats keep looking to politics to try to undermine everything that he's doing. I stand with our president, especially now in these trying times. He needs someone he can look to be an ally in Congress, not someone who's be working against him. He's got enough people working against him, but rather allies and people that will stand up with him, fight alongside him, and he can look to me. I flew with him on Air Force One last November, and he said exactly, he's looking to see what's going on in Florida and how we can continue to make this state red. He has someone in me, and I promised him that we will continue to work and make sure that we re-elect Donald Trump this November.
Thank you. Christy Mclaughlin.
Yeah, so this was a witch hunt from the beginning. And with all due respect to Francis Rooney, I think he did a great job for our environment and he did a great job representing Southwest Florida. But he must have been aware, everyone was aware that this was a witch hunt from the beginning, and there was no need for additional information to know that this entire impeachment was a farce. And the only candidate who is ready to take on AOC, we have a Congress that we need to be looking towards the future of our nation as well. And as the youngest one in this race, I'm the only candidate who is ready to take on the future of our Congress, which is using and abusing their power to take down presidents with a farcical impeachment hearing and abuse of the Constitution.
Thank you. Dan Severson.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think I'm uniquely positioned to answer it because I have been in an administration that has been both Democrat and Republican. And the issue that really comes to the forefront here is, why did Francis Rooney do that when he knew they were just looking for one Republican to endorse their cause to impeach President Donald Trump? And unfortunately, he succumbed to that. And he made it a bipartisan call. And I've been in those positions, and I have held the line to hold my caucus in line with the Republican agenda. And so I think that's the biggest problem that was with that particular statement that Francis Rooney made. He's a great legislator in terms of getting water quality and those things that we need in Florida. But in that particular case, he played right into the Democrats' hands and made it a bipartisan issue. I will not do that. I have been there, and I will ensure that President Trump's agenda is fulfilled, and he has the greatest opportunity to turn this nation into the great America it's always intended to be.
Representative Heather Fitzenhagen.
Well, I was a very early supporter of President Trump, and I think the impeachment process was a ridiculous tactic to stop the progress and the momentum and the positive accomplishments of our president. So I think that that said, I respect Francis Rooney. I think he did a tremendous job representing our area. As an attorney, I can relate to what he said in terms of wanting more information. That's just instilled in us to want to look at all the facts before making a decision. But I personally support President Trump 100% and think impeachment was a complete joke.
Thank you. Dr. Fig.
The notion that there was any sense of fairness and that this entire investigation had any legitimacy turns my stomach. And when I think of Nancy Pelosi and her regime passing out commemorative pens while Donald Trump is overlooking the country like a hawk as the coronavirus is beginning to spread through China and shuts down travel to the United States, it just makes me sick. There was no question that this was a hoax. There was absolutely no due justice during any of the hearings. And the idea that we needed more evidence, I completely disagree with. I support the president.
Darren Aquino.
Is the right answer. He showed the American people that he didn't trust our president. I've been around Donald Trump and he came to a family restaurant for 30 years. I watched what he done in New York City. He's done great things for this country. He wants a man that fights with him because I know his heart for the country. Francis Rooney showed the country that he disbelieved the president. That puts a very unsafe feeling in the American people when a Republican congressman does not support the president, the greatest president this century. Donald wants me to fight with him. The word's coming down from Washington. Darren, you have to win. Mike Caputo, they're counting on me because you need a little bit more New York savvy to fight these criminals from New York politics. And that was Chuck Schumer. That's Nadler. These guys came out of New York. Look at what's going on there. New York was hit harder because the corruption is bigger. Donald left New York and so did I. I have plans for our health care that's going to make it work. These guys are all elected officials and we're losing confidence in them. The American patriot has got to stand up for this job. And that's what I'll do with Donald Trump.
Mayor Randy Henderson.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is one that I have to find some measure of humor in. And I start with Mark Twain's famous words that you can't begin to distort the facts until you have them all. This is one of the greatest political coups I've ever seen. When it was going on, if you go back and look at the millions upon millions of dollars that were spent chasing this fantasy by the Democrats, there was no way, it was quite predictable that this would never have reached a successful impeachment. It was wrong from the get-go. It's wrong today. It was a total breach of responsible management of money and process. You can't you can't prove the facts until you have, or distort the facts until you have them all. And that's what we saw happen there. I support President Trump. I think he was played politically. It didn't work. It's going to be a horrible backlash on our Democratic Party.
Thank you. Representative Byron Donalds.
Listen, I don't think Congressman Rooney needed more information. It's crystal clear from the second the president was elected that the political left was out to get him, whether it was the Steele dossier, whether it was the Mueller report, whether it was Russia collusion, and even with impeachment. When you looked at, he came to his Supreme Court nominees, they did everything they could to try to discredit and destroy those men. So when it comes time to this impeachment joke that went through the halls of Congress, you didn't need to look very far to realize you just needed to stand with the president, because he has done everything he could possibly do to fight for all Americans, not just Republicans, but Democrats and independents as well. You know, as we go forward, it's going to be important that we have somebody in Congress who's not afraid to take on these fights with the political left. That's something I've done my entire life in politics this last decade, and I'll do it again for you, the voters here in Southwest Florida, when I go to Congress this fall.
Do you think there should be any new gun restrictions to help deal with what feels like an epidemic of mass shootings, including some here in Florida? And we'll start with Dan Severson.
I do not believe we need any more restrictions. In fact, the ones that have been put on through the Parkland shooting bill, I think, infringe on our Second Amendment constitutional rights. They deny the right of an individual from 18 to 21 to buy a weapon or to possess that weapon. There's a real problem with encroachment, and all of the things that are undermining our Constitution are gradual, and they are progressive, and they continue to erode. So anything that we do to undermine that in the name of safety undermines our constitutional rights as American citizens. And as one that has sworn to uphold the Constitution for 22 years, that is a passion of mine. that not just the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, all the amendments, all of the rights that are contained in the Constitution, I will guard passionately as the congressman representing this district and guarantee the Second Amendment will be safe under my watch.
Representative Byron Donald, back to you.
This is an important question in this campaign. I was in the legislature when the Parkland bill came through, and I voted against it because you were actually taking away the Second Amendment rights of people who are 18, 19, 20, and 21 years old. Because you were instituting red flag laws, things that we have seen in the last year and a half since that bill was passed that are detrimental to the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. But in this campaign, we have two people who actually voted for that bill, Dane Eagle and Heather Fitzenhagen. So when it was time to actually stand for constitutional rights, when the rubber actually met the road, there was one candidate in this race who proved that he will always stand for your constitutional rights. Listen, everybody in this debate, they're fine people. They would all probably do a good job. But I'm the only person here who you know, beyond the shadow of a doubt, will always stand on your side to protect your constitutional rights. And when you're talking about sending somebody to Washington, D.C., that is the number one job that you have, and that is to stand up for the Constitution and to protect the rights of the American people.
Representative Fitzenhagen, you were just called out. We'll give you a minute.
Thank you. Legislating isn't a one-way street. We work with our two parties in the legislature, and when we had to deal with the crisis that was Parkland and put together a package that would address some of the concerns for the safety of our children, we did the very best we could. The bill that was passed that Representative Donalds is referring to had a lot of good things in it in terms of the Guardian program and other things that allows us to keep our children safe. Yes, it did have some compromises for the Second Amendment, and I believe that we needed to do that because that's what our leadership needed us to do in order to get a quality bill passed that would help our children. That is not to say I do not think we need any more legislation to restrict the Second Amendment, and at any time, the Florida legislature can file a bill to remove some of those restrictions that were in the bill that he's referring to.
Representative Dane Eagle, you were also called out.
Well, in voting against that bill, Representative Donalds voted against President Trump, who endorsed every single measure within that bill, especially the right for teachers to keep and carry weapons. There were teachers that died because their Second Amendment right was stripped from them when they were on the school grounds that day. And that is an issue that I championed my entire 8 years. I've co-sponsored and sponsored over a dozen bills that protect and defend our Second Amendment, and I will stand with our president. What we need to do is continue to push to protect our Second Amendment for law-abiding citizens, but we as conservatives need to draw the line between those who want to protect and defend themselves and those who have felony records or mental illness that want to wreak havoc on others. There's no question about that whatsoever. As me in Congress, you have a champion for our Second Amendment. You have a champion who will stand up with our president and fight with our president, not fight against our president.
Thank you. Darren Aquino.
Am I allowed to respond? He did say my name. So
You had your minute, and he was responding to what you called him out for. So we're going to move on to Darren Aquino.
I'm a gun owner. I will enforce and protect the Second Amendment. Like Dan said, mental illness as an advocate for disabled, and we saw guns in the hands of the mentally ill create problems so devastating to families. The only issue is that we got to just make sure that there's no infringement of the person with the mental illness, because there's a constitutional question on how they go about it. You have to be a Constitution candidate and a patriot to make sure you don't infringe on anybody. It's not limited to those folks, but we have to be careful how we do that and not expose the mentally ill person as well. This is something very passionate to me, as I had a gunman at my door. And I know what that's like. But, you know, in New York City, before I came here, because of my public figure status and my beliefs, a gunman at my door at midnight. So I believe in that Second Amendment because our forefathers wanted us to protect our person, our family, our property, and do it responsibly. So we will have responsible legislation. We'll just make sure individuals don't have the guns that shouldn't.
Mayor Randy Henderson.
Yeah, it's been said here, I'll hasten through my remarks. The Second Amendment provides every individual American with the right to bear arms. For 35 years, I've had a concealed weapon permit. I want to protect every American's opportunity to have a concealed weapon permit, including my own. Americans should have the right to protect themselves, for example, their families, their property, their weapon of choice, the magazine capacity of their choice, and in their homes and on their person and in public. They have the right to protect themselves. What I can share is that as your congressman, I'll fight to protect the rights of every American, including the right to protect ourselves and our families as provided for under the Second Amendment, period.
Christy Mclaughlin.
The Second Amendment right, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. The regulations that exist are so extreme, and they are an infringement on our constitutional right, which in United States v. Heller, a United States Supreme Court, that is an individual right. And the regulated militia clause actually is our right to oppose tyranny, which in a time where with this COVID-19 virus, there are questions of government overreach, it is more time than ever to have not only not including any more regulations, but removing some of the regulations that already exist. And with all due respect to other candidates, I actually studied constitutional law in law school and public policy, and I am more prepared than most candidates to discuss the constitutionality of protecting Second Amendment rights, because it is an individual right to protect ourselves against tyranny, and it is more important than ever with this COVID-19 pandemic.
Dr. Fig?
Well, it doesn't really take a law degree to understand that the Second Amendment allows all Americans to keep and bear arms, and it's a God-given right. It's not a government-given right. And as your next congressman, I will unapologetically support the Second Amendment. But what bothers me is that career politicians like Dane Eagle, who insult the voters with their campaign running on pro-gun, and then as a professional politician, very quickly finds an excuse as to why he sold out the voters. Even worse are phonies like Byron Donalds, who came out weak on guns when Mike Hill walked into his office with an offer to sponsor a bill to repeal the gun reform, and he turned it down. He came in repeatedly and asked him, this is our opportunity to repeal that bill, and he was too busy. He decided it wasn't important enough. So it's great that he came down on the right side. He didn't take money from Bloomberg like Representative Eagle, but he had the opportunity to champion the issue and declined.
Thank you.
Good opportunity to respond there, Morgan.
Yes, you can respond. 30 seconds.
Well, I think Dr. Fig's been watching too much CNN. He's getting his fake news tactics. I don't know where he's getting the money coming from Bloomberg, but that has never happened. I'm a gun owner, an NRA member, and a concealed weapons permit holder. The only person I support in this is President Trump. But if Dr. Fig and Byron Donalds want to work against him, they're going to have a hard time getting through Congress. My job as your next congressional representative will be to stand with our President, Donald Trump, not fight against him. I will stand for our Constitution, our Second Amendment, and our president.
Byron, do you want to go? 30 seconds.
I do. For two things. Number one, its talking point of working against the president is phony. That's political talk, folks. And listen, don't fall into that kind of stuff. I've seen it being in the legislature over myself where you hear these talking points that make no sense. On the other side, I will tell you that I've never had any conversation with Representative Hill about sponsoring that bill. But I know that I'm the only person in this race who, when it came time to actually cast a vote, when it came time to actually stand against Republican leadership in the Florida legislature, I'm the only person in this campaign that actually did it, and I can be trusted to do it again.
Thank you. Several of you said it's time to reopen the economy. I'm going to go through each of you and ask you for a yes or no answer. Is it time to reopen? And we'll just go in the order of this screen here. So we'll start with Dane Eagle.
Absolutely, yes.
Byron Donalds?
100%. We need to get back to work.
Mayor Randy Henderson?
Yes.
Dan Severson?
Absolutely. Yes.
Darren Aquino?
And the order of the screen was me first. You've always been putting me last. The answer is yes, with some caution.
I'm not sure if we're saying.
Nice. I don't like that. I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that. You've been doing that a lot. That's discrimination. Our law scholar down here will agree.
Dr. Fig?
Yes, with caution.
Heather Fitzenhagen?
Yes.
Christy Mclaughlin?
Yes, individuals can figure it out.
Thank you. Moving on to part two of that question. How do we reopen and move forward? Dane Eagle.
I think we need to stop delaying the inevitable and get back to work immediately. As I said earlier, the constituent calls I'm getting are not so much what can government do for me in this time, but when is government going to get out of the way? It's time to stop this shutdown, this government-mandated shutdown, and allow people to get back to work. We have this American spirit and this competitive nature that we have in this country is what has made this country strong and the number one country in the United States, or in the world, excuse me. And the only way we can get back to that is by allowing them and their entrepreneurial spirit to get back to work. And yes, we need to abide by CDC guidelines, and things may be different for a little while we protect the health and safety of others by doing social distancing and abiding by certain things. But there's no way that we can't do that while also getting back to work and spurring this economy. I trust in the American people. I trust in our constituents, and I think they're going to do great things as soon as we allow them to get back to work and put their entrepreneurial spirit and ingenuity back to work.
Representative Byron Donalds.
I think the first step we take in getting back to work is actually going back to the previous orders. These are the orders when restaurants were at 50% capacity, when you didn't have this shutdown of non-essential businesses. Personally, I don't even understand what a non-essential business is, because in the lives of every Floridian, every American, the place you go to work every day, it's essential to your life, it's essential to your family, and it's essential to your well-being. It looks like schools are going to remain closed for the remainder of the year, but I think we have to start reopening parks, beaches, summer camps for kids, get back to life slowly but surely. We'll still have the CDC guidelines, but if you've actually taken the time to be out amongst the people here in Southwest Florida, even in Publix or Costco, people are taking social distancing very seriously. They're taking their health seriously. And we have to trust the American people that they're going to do the right thing, because quite frankly, they always do the right thing when it comes to their health, their safety, their welfare, and their family. We have to put the trust in them, relax these orders, and then get back to normal life again.
Mayor Randy Henderson.
Okay, well, quick shout out to every healthcare professional that has kept our citizens safe. We thank them. I will tell you that Trump and Pence and his team have assembled one of the best teams in the United States to help us get back. We've got to open as soon as possible. We've got to open as safely as possible. I've overseen the economic revival of our city. Just prior to our coronavirus outbreak, for example, we had 3.4% unemployment and 7 years of property tax increases. We must get back to life as normal. I believe that we need to follow Trump's lead in reopening America safely. We need to treat this virus the same way we would treat foreign threats, in the sense of keeping citizens safe. We need to strengthen our borders, and then we need to hold China and the World Health Organization accountable for what they have done to allow this virus to come forward.
Thank you. Dan Severson.
I think one of the interesting things is we went into this was the object was to blunt the curve, to cut it off so that there weren't overcapacitation in our hospitals that we couldn't address. We have accomplished that and more. And so now as the curve is flattened, we need to get our people back to work. That's their livelihood. Pat Davis, the lieutenant governor from Texas, had a great talk about, I'm an older person, I'm subject to this disease, but I don't believe that trying to keep me safe is reason to demolish our economy. And so I really believe that those people who have a passion to make this thing work are out there doing it in President Trump's team. They are focused on medical. They aren't focused on the economy. And so what we need to do is do as they have laid out, but we need to be aggressive about it. And we need to get people back to work, because there are lines starting to form for, just food requirements, and those things have a long-term effect. We need to fix that.
Darren Aquino.
Well, as a person who was affected, like Dan said, we're older, and I got 9/11 issues. But the way to handle this, instead of our professional politicians, the way to handle it is check the area. We go over the numbers of how many were sick, and we go area by area, because we don't need to restrict everybody. With the panic, everybody was restricting everybody, violating constitutional rights all around the country. We go area by area. The medical evidence is there. We use the evidence. If that area is free of it, we shouldn't be restricted by it. You understand? If it's not there, why are we hurting those businesses? We got to use logic and common sense as well, together with medical evidence. Doing that will start to generate it back, because there are folks that don't need to be closed, and they were closed. But, we got issues here. Some of the issues here, you got elected officials that are supposed to resign from this seat. These seats are influencing their other seat. So that's hindering this playing field for the equality of the other non-politicians here. And our truth isn't being heard. And that infringes on our rights as well.
Dr. Fig?
Well, the long-term damage to our nation's economy as a result of this crisis by far exceeds the benefit of these shutdowns. We have to get back to work. Now, with that being said, we've got to use common sense. The people that are at high risk should certainly, on their own, stay at home and stay sequestered. But small businesses have a right to get back to work. And with social distancing, with hand washing, and with common sense, we need to get back to work. Absolutely.
Representative Heather Fitzenhagen.
Well, I'm very proud of what President Trump and Governor DeSantis did in order to keep Americans safe. But I do believe that it is time for us to get back to work. And most recently, I was advocating for reopening elective surgeries because a lot of people have been putting off important procedures. What I also will say, though, is I think we do have to do it in a measured, common sense way. And I support the task force that Governor DeSantis has put together in order to make sure that we are rolling out the reopenings in a reasonable fashion so that every Floridian can get back to work and our economy will be running again.
Christy?
We needed to have opened up a week ago, quite frankly. I have had several rallies online. Actually, I just had one on Saturday where we had 1.2 thousand participants join us for a rally online with people from many different states, including Pennsylvania, New York, Virginia, all supporting opening back up the economy because people are suffering. And unlike some candidates who post pictures with President Trump and show how much they support President Trump and say that a lot, the reality is we need to actually support our president in action and with sincerity rather than just paying lip service, because our president has supported personal liberties, and that's part of his platform from the very beginning. And personal liberties are being infringed upon now. And instead of having government experience of entrenched, special interests pulling our president every which way, we need to be supporting our president and opening back up the economy. We are standing at a precipice of $25 trillion in debt. And that is not going to be solved with a broken, shut down economy with the states.
We've seen moves to drill for oil in Big Cypress, but efforts to block it in the Eastern Gulf. Where do you stand on oil exploration in Southwest Florida and off our coast? Christy, we'll circle back to you.
All right, so I am in favor of, always being American independent. We need to continue drilling oil to become more independent as a country. But when it comes to offshore drilling, water is so essential, especially in Florida, and it can be very damaging to our ecosystem. Not to mention, it's damaging to the country because our waterways are so vast, it affects interstate commerce. So we need to tread lightly when it comes to oil, especially when it comes to offshore drilling. But other than that, we need to be American independent and, self-sustaining.
Darren Aquino?
We got to stop being experimental and have facts when we do things. Everybody takes a political platform when we're talking about the environment and the nature of human life. If it's not good to drill there, then you don't drill there. It shouldn't become a political issue. They've taken lives, elected professionals like this, they come and take our life, and it goes into a political form and takes the thought and question and right of the people to say, is that good for us, this drilling? How do we benefit from it? Will it affect our water? Will it trickle into here? Let's look at the realistic issues and face those challenges and come up with a yes or a no. We have to start being truthful to ourselves and to the American people. We have too much oligarchy in Congress that thinks of their pockets. These folks want to elevate themselves to a career where oligarchy lives that we got to get rid of. We have to think of the American family and what's best for them. It's about families. This country is made up of families.
Dane Eagle?
We need to continue to wean ourselves off foreign oil and look to energy independence here in the United States. When it comes to drilling off our coast, especially here in Southwest Florida, we have no room for that. We need to protect the military zone. But what other states decide to do in drilling and exploring for oil, I'm all for it, and that's what we have the 10th Amendment for, and allowing states to decide what they do. But we do not have any room for drilling for oil here off the Southwest Florida coast, and especially in the military zone where our number one military in the world is practicing and training to defeat those foreign that want to wreak havoc on our country.
Jan Severson?
America has become the OPEC of natural gas, and it's taking over the market for need for the petroleum industry. And I really believe that as we make this transition into natural gas, that we need to, technology-wise, move in that direction and start to protect our natural resources in the Big Cypress and off the coast, because those are really the gems that make Florida the place that people want to come and live. And so when we put that in jeopardy by doing some experimental oil drilling and the whole line, I think we put at risk the nature that we love so much here. So I'm a big proponent for pushing towards natural gas and then introducing nuclear energy again into our economic system.
Dr. Fig.
Energy independence is critical to our safety as a nation. Fortunately, we are the biggest energy exporter in the world right now, and that's without having to resort to offshore drilling. I would not be in favor of offshore drilling off the coast of Florida, and as our natural resources and water are the most valuable resource to our economy. But we need to continue to be the leader in energy production on the world stage, and this is critical to our security.
Byron Donald.
What most people don't know about me is that outside of politics, I'm a small business owner. I'm a partner in a financial services firm. And in my firm, we study things like oil exploration, as well as all parts of the financial economy. I'll tell you right now, the United States has never been in a better position with respect to energy at any point in our history. We do export a lot of energy off of our shores. So offshore drilling in Florida is just something that's not necessary, not something that I support. But one thing that's clear with respect to going to Washington and voting and advocating on energy policy is that we have more natural gas reserves here in the United States and oil reserves than any other country in the world. And we do have to begin to unwind the regulatory burden with respect to nuclear. Nuclear power can be done very safely in small modular reactors. So we're not building these large, massive plants. The amount of energy will be cheap. It will be relatively clean with respect to the environment, and it will be consistent for all Americans. So we do have a strategy. We're going to get there, but you got to have somebody in the Congress who really knows the financial and economic side of energy exploration.
Mayor Henderson.
No drilling in the pristine waters of the Gulf of Mexico. I can share with you that our waters, I said it before, I'll say it again, are the precious resources of our area. BP showed us firsthand here in Southwest Florida of the catastrophic effects on the economy and the quality of life, the environmental devastation that it offered us. I would believe that fossil fuels will continue to phase down over the decades ahead, and that we will continue down the path of moving away from fossil fuels and into higher technology and energy options that are coming known to us. I've spent years working to protect the precious waters of not only our Gulf of Mexico, but the Caloosahatchee River and parts beyond. Drilling in the Gulf of Mexico does not make sense. I will never support it.
Representative Fitzenhagen.
I do believe strongly in energy independence, and I do agree that our resources of petroleum and natural gas have been recently at an all-time high. So that's wonderful. I have never believed in offshore drilling in Florida because it doesn't make sense in the overall picture for the United States, and nor does it make sense when our whole economy runs off of the water quality that we have that brings people that want to live here and work here and recreate here. So that's very important. I've also been someone that has been against fracking over a number of years. So I'm very concerned about our environment. The thing that I would want to look at when I get to Washington is the safety of our energy grid. I think that's something that would be concerning for all of us because it is in jeopardy now.
Thank you. And we've reached our closing statements. Each of you have 20 seconds to tell people in Southwest Florida why they should vote for you. We'll start with Dan Severson.
Dan Severson, and I have been tested and proven. I will be a strong voice in Congress for conservative values on day one. I would be honored and humbled to have your support, and I'm asking for your vote on August 18th. Please go to my website, danseversonforcongress.com. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States.
Darren Aquino.
For 35 years, I have been a staunch, patriotic American fighting for the civil rights of people with disabilities here known as vulnerable. Go to my website, Aquino for Congress, and see all of the details. We will have good health care because I'll install it with the president. We will have every family. We're protecting families, and I fight for families. Go for Aquino for Congress.
Mayor Randy Henderson.
Everyone, I'm 20 years now into public service. I've been mayor in my 11th year. I'm a small business owner. I'm battle tested more than anyone here for this moment. I'm Randy Henderson, and if you send me to Congress, I'll work to support our President Trump to jumpstart our economy, rebuild America, and reclaim the life that we know. I am battle tested. And let me just say, if you want to know more about Randy Henderson, go to randyhendersonforflorida.com. Thank you.
Representative Byron Donalds.
I'm Byron Donalds, and I'm running for Congress because we need a conservative who can actually win the political battles against Nancy Pelosi and AOC, who will always protect your constitutional rights, and who will help to re-elect President Trump, take back the House, and expand our Republican Party. I'm the true conservative, the trusted conservative in this race who can get the job done, and that's why I need your vote. Join my campaign at byrondonalds.com.
Christy Mclaughlin.
There are 5 career politicians in this race right now. It is time that Southwest Florida has somebody innovative represent them, and somebody who is actually Southwest Florida and is part of that family. I was born and raised here. I went to college here. I went to law school here. I chose to stay because this is my home. I will proudly be the voice for Southwest Florida, and I can take on AOC because as a young woman looking at the future of Congress, I can take that.
Heather Fitzenhagen.
Thank you. I'm Heather Fitzenhagen, and I wake up every day with a burning passion to serve our community. I have stood up and never let special interests get in the way. I've been strong about things that I cared about, and if you send me to Washington as your next Congresswoman, I will continue to do that.
Representative Dane Eagle.
My name is Dane Eagle. I'm the Republican Majority Leader in the Florida House, and I'm born and raised right here in Southwest Florida. These are unprecedented times, and we cannot afford to elect somebody untested and unproven to serve us in Congress. We need to look to somebody with consistent conservative record, and I can back that up. I am running to protect our president, our country, and our Constitution. You can learn more at daneeagle.com.
Dr. Fig, close us out.
There's 2 types of candidates in this race. There's career politicians looking for a taxpayer-paid promotion, and then there's me. If you, like me, are sick and tired of these career politicians saying anything to get elected and then selling you out to the highest-paying lobbyist, then we have a place for you in our campaign. Please visit us online at drfigforcongress.com and join our team of America First Conservatives. Thank you.
I want to thank you all so much for participating in today's debate. I will upload all of it on probably Wink News and our Facebook page, and I'll send out that link to it afterwards.